Hello everyone. Today we will discuss Unit 2 of BA Final Year Telephone Conversation by Wolf Soyinka. Here first we will discuss about the poet. He was born in 13 July 1934 at Nigeria, awarded the 1968 Nobel Prize in Literature, worked as an editor for the satirical magazine The Eagle, and the first major play The Swamp Dweller he published in 1958. This is very important. And in 1957, his play The Invention was the first of his work to be produced at the Royal Court Theatre. This is also important. Now the theme of the poem: racism, ordinary disappointment. Here the poem exposes the cruelty of judging people based on their skin color. So before explaining you the summary, I will give you a quick and short introduction. Here the telephone conversation is a satirical poem by Vol Soyinka. Here he is a Nigerian writer. Here the first he was an African Nobel laureate in literature. Here this poem exposes that racial prejudice and the absurdity of discrimination through a telephone conversation between an American man, the speaker, and the lady and the white lady. Okay, here the poem reveals that speaker's intelligence, wit, and frustration as he deals with the landlady's ignorant mindset. Like here, showing that how people judge other based on their skin color rather than character. Okay. So here the first is in the opening of poem, the writer provides us with the theme of the poem. He is seeking for renting a place. The price appears to be reasonable, while the location is also lump sum correct. Here the lady, who was British, does not live on the property currently, implying that the tenant will have some degree of privacy. At this point, everything seems that rather standard classical, and nothing raises a red flag for the prospective tenant. So here poet explains you that here the speaker, the African man, is looking for a place to rent, and the price of property is reasonable, and the location is indifferent, which means that it does not matter much to him. And the landlady, the reassures him that she does not live in on that premises the property, implying that he will have privacy. Okay, and the tone here is calm and neutral, but we will soon see that the tone will be changes as the conversation progress. So we will move forward to another stanza. Here the writer feels the need to confess himself he is African. The word, the word confession suggests that revealing his ethnicity may be perceived negatively as unfortunate reality many people face due to racial prejudices. Here the speaker tells vividly that he does not want to waste time and energy in journey if the honor is going to distinguish against him due to being African. So here the poet decided to reveal his race upfront to her, which avoid unnecessary trouble. He calls this self-confession. So being an African is something that must be admitted. He does this prevent a wasted journey, implying that he has to face a discrimination before and accept rejection. Okay. So the phrase here given, I am African, which is simple yet powerful, which carries the weight of racial prejudice that he has experienced in the past. Okay. So we'll move to next stanza. On hearing African, the Britishian honor could not responded at once, while speaker felt this silent as her being caught between her own possible prejudice and social norm that dictate good manners. This pressurized good breeding indicates that her silence might be to her trying to react appropriately. She feels somewhat different. So here is a long silence which indicating the lady shock and hesitation. After hearing that speaker is an African, which also here shows that which pressurize the good breeding, which means that the landlady is trying to act polite despite her prejudice. Okay, matlab after hearing that conversation, she was just acting to like polite despite her prejudice. She knows she has problem with his color, but still she was just acting like polite behavior. So now we will move to next stanza. As soon as the lady finally speaks, the speaker imagines her voice as being highly complicated, expressing her with lipstick, and the stylish cigarette holder. However, he soon feels disappointed when her later words reveal her racial prejudice, which means that here this gives a description of her voice, like lipstick coated, like a gold rolled cigarette and holder pipped. Like it suggests that she's a wealthy and superficial, right? And which sets the contrast that between her external sophistications and her internal racial bias. Okay, students. Here, like a poet is imagining that she could be a long gold rolled cigarette and holder pepped. She is rich and a lipstick coated. So, like she is wealthy, superficial. So, so in this paragraph, he is explaining this. So now we will move forward to next stanza. Here, the poet shows you that the honor lady vividly inquires about the exact texture of the speaker's brightness. Confirming his earlier doubt about racial prejudice, she does not use twisted words, and her question clearly appeared as an electric shock to the speaker, making him totally realize that he had not mistaken her initial silence. Which means that here the landlady finally speaks, and her question was shockingly racist, as we all know that she asked to the poet, "How dark?" Very dark. So, like the capitalization of like how dark, which means how you like, are you light or very dark? Which emphasizes the absurdity and rudeness of a question, right? You can't ask someone like how much dark you are dark. This really hurt that person who is standing in front of you or you're talking to him, right? So, and the speaker also stunned and offended by like realizing that only thing that matter to her is skin color. This really gives a shock to that poet, speaker, the African man, and this marks shifts the poem tone to neutral to ironic and satirical. Okay, so in the next stanza, here it shows that in the stanza, speaker expressing his surroundings and feeling. The button B, button A might refer to the buttons in public telephone booth. The strength of rancid breath symbolizes of disgusting nature of the social differentiation he is experiencing. The frequent use of the word red could symbolize anger, emergency, summarize his emotional state, which means that here now the speaker is trapped, right? Like as if he is a public he is in a public telephone booth, which symbolizes larger prejudiced society, right? Which mentions that button A and button B, which means that this is used in old British telephone booth. Okay, which suggests that he is debating whether to continue the conversation or to end it. But which, like here, the strength of rancid breath, it is given here in the comma, which symbolizes the ugliness of racism. It is foul, disgusting, and really pervasive. You can't tell someone about this, right? Now we'll move over to another stanza. Here it shows you that knowing the honor idea on racism, knowing the idea on racism, the speaker now feels with mixture of shame and amazement. His silence is not out of manner, but rather from being dumbfounded, he actually breaks it to ask explanation almost as if he can't believe immediately such dumb inquiry, where he shows that he did he was just uh, feels like the speaker now he feels like a mixture of shame and amazement, right? Like she's asking how dark, how much dark you are, and now he can't say anything he can't say anything to her because he's standing on a telephone booth, right, which is public property, which is public prejudice. So he is really feels so much ashamed on him, like he was thinking rather, but he was thinking that this is dumbfounded, which eventually he breaks. He eventually breaks it to ask for explanation among us if he cannot believe immediately, like he was thinking that this is such a dumb inquiry, right? Now it also shows that the honor lady asks her question again, while the speaker now fully be aware of her intentions. So tries to bring some level of stupidity to the conversation. He comparing skin tone as chocolate, right? He comparing skin to chocolate. The line clears that speaker anonymize her queries, which means that, like in the before, here the which is really absorbing the shock of the landlady, racist remarked and choosing how to respond here. Okay, here the oppression of black people in a white dominant society. It is shown that that's why the speaker was ashamed that how she can ask this type of question. Now in this again, poet mocks the landlady, the speaker, ignorance by comparing his skin color to chocolate shade. Like, seriously? Like, this is sarcastic response highlights the absurdity of judging people by color. And here now a playful yet sharp tone, like showing that speaker's intelligence and wit. Like, you can't inquiry like this. Now, like, she's comparing. First she was asking how dark, how much dark, and now she was just comparing her skin color to chocolate. Like, seriously? Now the owner told is cold and clinical destitute of any warmth and humanity. Here the speaker decided to answer her question by describing his skin color as West African sepia, an official tone used to prohibit in passport. So here poet says that his response is very cold and indifferent, like showing that racism is deeply ingrained in her mind. Wavelength, like the phrases is wavelength adjusted, like which suggests that she is trying to sound professional, but still it is discriminating, right? How professional you are, or you act like a professional, but if you're talking disgusting, it will still discriminating. That sentence to him. Like, the speaker realizes that no amount of wit will change her mindset. She will remain the same, and she will still ask the question to him, how dark, how much dark. She will continue to ask him. Now, here it shows you that British lady kept silent again, possibly confused or unwilling to admit ignorance. When she finally speaks, her tone changes, revealing that true feelings. The speaker simplifies his answer to like brunette to makes it easier for her to understand. Oh my god, now here the speaker continues mocking the landlady by giving a ridiculous description of his skin. Like, here, sarcastically, he says that his face is brunette, which means body is black, but his palm and feet are bleached white. So this shows the absurdity of racial discrimination, as skin color should not have no impact on a person's worth. So next stanza shows you that the conversation reaches to a point of funny. The speaker plays with the idea of skin color, saying that while his face might be dark, while other part of the body's products blown, he even funny adds that sitting down has turned his bottom ribbon black, making a joke of landladies thinking on skin color issue. So as I explained you in the previous stanza, like this is like sarcastic description. This is joking that his bottom has turned black due to friction from sitting, right? Like, see, this is mockery of the landlady obsession with color. Now his tone becomes more playful, showing that he refuses to take her racism seriously. Here it shows the last stanza. As soon as the landlady is about to disconnecting the call, the speaker makes a further try to invite her to judge him in person rather than based on a decision of color. So here poet says that at the speaker end, this ironical jab, inviting the landlady to see his skin in person, and turns her prejudice back on her, forcing her to confront her own ignorance. Okay, and here the poem ends confusing, not clearly what the landlady chooses to do. But the suggestion is completely clear here. The whole conversation exposes the dysgenius nature or idea about racial thinking. Like, this poems end on a sarcastic yet powerful note, exposing the ridiculous nature of racism. Okay, like this poem also gives you the brilliant critique of racism. Okay, which exposes the absurdity of racial prejudice. Okay, here the poets want to highlight the shallow thinking of racist individual and shows that how intelligence can be used to challenge discrimination. Right. So thank you everyone for listening. Keep learning and growing. Please like and subscribe to my